and waiting for people. Waiting for people to join the room. I'm all alone. It's really sad. All alone in a live broadcast. Nobody wants to play with me. Bam. Hey, Michael. There's the room link. Cole doesn't want to hang out. All right, Cole. We did this for you. Help us out. Thank you. No, none of my friends want to hang out. Let's see. What's the topic today? There's really no topic today. There's none. Sunday Funday is a new thing where we just go. It's whatever you want to talk about, Kenny. What do you want to talk about? We'll talk about whatever. As soon as somebody joins, like Bradley. There we go. I had to go alone. You weren't here. I was scared. I was all by myself.
Oh no.
Kenny wants to know, and Cole something kept failing on Cole's end, so Cole couldn't join. The link to join is in the comments. I think it works. I'm not real sure. Facebook's weird. Like when it comes to doing live stuff. But Cole said his kept failing, so he ain't coming to play with us today.
That sounds like Cole.
Yeah. And Kenny wants to know what the topic is, and I have no idea.
The topic is whatever you guys want to talk about.
Yep. That's what we're here for.
That and In the Line of Fire.
Which was a good movie. That's something we should talk about eventually. Like, we should put a list together. All of the movies from the 80s where you can see cask cities, like really good. Because I posted that Lassie thing. Like, nobody's ever believed me when I say that the Fountain of Youth was super open in the 80s and you could just walk right in because there were no walls. Until I posted that Lassie video where it legit shows you there's no walls. But that Lassie video, like it's a whole series and it's like 4 hours long or whatever, and it's super boring. But at the end of it, the last like 45 minutes or so is in front of St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans. Like, it's a lot of period shots from the 60s and 70s in New Orleans.
Yep, and there's that sci-fi movie with the Wright brothers, Memorial Area.
Yeah, and they're like a
Matlock.
Matlock, yep. And then, let's see, there's another movie that was filmed in St. Augustine. Illegally Yours was like mid to late 80s with Robert Downey Jr. Shitty movie, but it's all through downtown St. Augustine. We should put a list together.
Yeah, we should. Community, start a post and help us make a list.
Yeah. There was it Dirty Harry was filmed in San Francisco?
I have no idea.
I think it was
posted
Dirty
a
Harry.
movie that was in San Francisco. Oh man, what was that? It was really good. I don't know. I have to go back and check my posts, but there was a really good movie that's all throughout San Francisco.
Yeah. There was a TV show too that was done in like in Chinatown back before the Transamerica building was built. Forget the name. It was like a cop show. I forget the name of it. Had a lot of really good. Yeah, but they don't really go outside. This one had a lot of really good, like, because the make believe police headquarters or whatever was where the Transamerica building is now. So there was a lot of really good shots of them running into Portsmouth Square.
That's cool.
Yeah. Nothing was filmed in New York though.
No, yeah, no,
sure.
never.
Sure there was a lot of Battery Park stuff. But then, like, places like Charleston, I'm surprised so much was filmed in Roanoke, though, in that park.
Michael Lutz says Tower Inferno.
Was that filmed in San Francisco?
Sounds like a New York movie.
Let me Google it. Tower Inferno. That's something we should do, man. We've got this Plex server. We should just set up like a Plex server with nothing but Cask City movies and then just share it to everybody.
Steve Robinson says the streets of San Francisco. Or
San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco was great. Oh, yeah, the Towering Inferno. Okay, that was shot in San Francisco. I'm assuming the streets of San Francisco was probably shot in, like, Peoria. Ow! Ow, that's really loud.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Huh, weird. It's actually really quiet in here.
It's probably that volume leveling thing where it takes background noise and it amplifies it so you can hear it.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah, the streets. No, it's good. Streets of San Francisco. I guess it was a TV show from 72 to 73. Huh. Was that the one I was thinking of? It's probably the one I was thinking of.
At any rate, I'm sorry.
How much does old maps and aerial images impact final locations? I don't know, man. That's an argument that everybody's going to have forever.
Oh, here we go. I can turn down the volume for the movie. There we go. How's that?
It's about the same. Now you can't really hear it.
No?
No.
Okay,
how much do you think old maps and aerial photos impact solutions?
I think it's good to know what was there and what it looked like. But as far as like overlays, I haven't yet seen an overlay that I was like, holy crap, that looks good. Yeah, I mean, as far as just generally, not necessarily maps per se, but old photos and things like that, absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a match recently. It's off topic of what we're talking about right now, but I just thought about it, of a bench in Charleston and the shadows and how it matches the shadows of the fairy's shadow under her arms.
Yeah, that was Adrian I can never pronounce his name. One day I got to just tell him to tell me how to pronounce his name. Krasniak? Whatever it is.
It looked really good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah, as far as overlays and stuff, nah. But yeah, it's nice to have the map so you can know what used to be there, especially with Roanoke.
My thing is,
it's crazy over the years.
It's just too hard back in the 80s to find aerial photos of anything. Like maybe you'll find something in an encyclopedia that somebody took from an airplane, but it's not like it is now where you can just like, even ignoring Google Maps and Google Images or Google Earth or whatever, you can still go to like historic aerials or whatever, but you couldn't do that in your local library in 1984. It's just so hard. So I agree. Yeah. Like use them if you want, but I haven't seen any that are like amazing. Generally, they're all like weird lines in, like if you zoom super close into the painting, weird lines sort of make angles or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, this is this building." Okay.
Oh, there we go. I'm still learning how to use my chair. That's why I'm leaning all weird directions. But yeah, no. Yeah, the zoom in weird Paranoia matches are no fun.
They are where they are. You can use them if you want. I just don't think, like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be viable, but that's just my opinion. Cole May says Charleston is a map. Well, it has a big ass outline of the city, so there is that.
And whatever's in the lion's forehead.
Yeah.
But those are like obvious maps, like Roanoke, like the outline of the island. The outline of Charleston, the peninsula, like those aren't like aerial photos. Those are just obvious map matches.
Yeah.
Like Ohio and Cleveland.
Well, and there's some people that say like the branch in the Charleston image follows the road from the Perriman Bridge down to White Point Gardens, and that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. I don't know though. I thought like, is it something that John brought up in like the earlier podcasts that was a match? But I think he was wrong about where the Pearman Bridge was, but I'm not real sure.
Mm. So yeah, no, I agree that maps. There are maps in the images. Absolutely, there's no question about that. But not like
super zoomed in. Yeah, overlay.
Yeah.
Overlay. Anytime you do an overlay, it's going to be hard to convince me because you're going to have to find like the one exact picture from 1982 wherever, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that and the vague shapes that I've seen pretty often, where somebody will turn the overlay and then zoom in, zoom out until it fits in, but it's a pretty generic shape, and it's like not something you could have done back in the day.
Yeah. I don't know. And I mean, you can find anything as long as you try hard enough. You can make it fit. You just can. Like I like it's gonna sound like an insult, but it's not. But my favorite thing was when I first posted that picture of that thing from Joe Ellen, the envelope from Joe Ellen. Carly Perales was able to take two things in the Fair Folk, whatever, the Fair Folk, the back of the book. She was able to take two plots and plot them on a map and point directly to the address that was on the envelope before he knew what was on the envelope. And it's like, why? Like, he was like, this is obviously, this address is obviously part of the puzzle because maybe it's Byron's office or whatever. But no, it was like a random apartment Joe Ellen was living in at the time. Like I said, if you try hard enough, you can make anything fit in one way or another.
This is true.
Having said that, some of Carly's stuff is really good. That one was not.
You can make the square peg fit in the round hole, and vice versa.
Yeah. If the round hole's big enough. Nick says, my favorite thing's just been learning about all the cool places by studying the verses and the pictures. Dude, there's some cool places out there. That's been my favorite. Like traveling and meeting people. Yeah, super awesome. And Mark says, is there any chance we can get a cask this year? I don't know, man. Where are you doing?
Yeah, there's certainly a chance. How slim that chance is the question.
Yeah, I hope so. It'd be really cool if another one was found. Like if one was found like in a super legit button down. Yeah.
Not surrounded by mystery.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. I would love it. Should find two of them. That'd be great.
Yeah, Nick, get out there, man. That's most of the fun is traveling to these places and seeing them in person. I mean, you see the photos, that's one thing, but once you get there and you're standing in front of the thing you've been looking at on a monitor, it's a whole new world.
Yeah. So far I've been able to hold Rob's cask and Brian's cask, and that's like, I didn't even find it, and it was awesome. So holding one that you found, that's got to be great.
Yeah, no lie. And just going to these places, like the first time I went to Cleveland and saw the plot, the planter and the fountain and just everything around there that I've seen in the image and seen on the TV shows and the pictures online and Brian's home video. I mean, just being there, it's awesome. It's like the hair stands up on the back of your neck sort of thing. It's cool.
Yeah. And then seeing the scale, like it looks so much bigger when you're looking at images and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it's like a tiny parking lot. Like it's so small. So that's fun too. Well, it was like you with White Point Gardens. Like you didn't realize it was tiny.
Oh yeah, I thought it was bigger. Huge.
No.
We got there and I was like, so that's it?
Yeah.
We walked from one end to the other real quick.
Oh. I'm guessing you're reading the New York one.
Yes.
Have you heard anything about when permits might reopen in San Francisco? Yeah. As far as I know, when the city completely reopens, it's really like it's an issue that's really low on their radar, so they're working on everything else first. I know they're talking about it. I think if you email them, they'll give you an answer, but it's really just like whenever the city allows it.
Tina, about red herrings? No, I don't think that there are any intentional red herrings. I haven't. So as far as like, let's say the three that are found: Boston, Chicago, and Cleveland. Like everything that was in the painting and the image that we know of matched, and there's nothing that, in my opinion, would lead us to believe they were anywhere else. So no, I don't think there's any intentional red herrings. Doesn't mean they're not there. But who knows? I mean, when the street got changed from, what was it, Liberty Street to Martin Luther King Boulevard or something like that, and one of the clues in the image was supposed to be was the bell, and it was leading you towards Liberty Bell. I know that Byron enjoyed the idea that it made it a little bit harder since the street name changed. So it's possible that he put some red herrings in there, but there's none that I know of.
Laura Carroll wanted to join, so we popped in
Laura.
Laura Carroll. Looks like she's sitting on her couch and now doesn't want to do video.
all I see is the darkness.
Yes, it's just black.
Yes.
What's up, Laura?
I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. Hi.
We can.
Oh, okay, cool.
You're just a voice in the dark void.
And you can just turn your camera off if you want.
Yeah, you can totally just turn your camera off.
Hide.
I'm learning how to do this. I'm not sure how to shut my camera off.
If you just put your are you on your phone or are you on your computer?
I'm on my phone.
If you just tap the screen, I think little buttons will pop up, and you can just click on the picture of the video camera. It's like a box with a little lens on it, and then turn your video off.
Camera.
So Michael Lutz says red herring versus misinterpretation, like Boston and Charles Gate. Like we can make our own red herrings all day long.
Oh yeah, I mean we do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the whole point of this puzzle, it seems. How good can you make The Secret? It's okay, Laura, if you can't find it. We can just talk to the void.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Hear
you. I can't figure it out. I don't know if it's still on or not.
It is, I think.
We can hear you, and I think it is.
Yeah. So what's up? What do you want to talk about?
Well, any news or progress on the you had posted a while back the cute little monster with all of the books and stuff, and you said there was going to be a contest coming?
Yeah. You want news on the contest. So we were waiting on another book to come in. The book has come in, and now I have to mail them out to get signed. And that's just me being, at this point, it's just me being lazy. I just haven't went to the post office yet. I got a bunch of other crap to send out to. But so far, we've got everybody on board to sign and draw on them and, do whatever it is they want to do with them. Then send them back, and we're going to do some sort of contest. We haven't really decided exactly what yet. But it's going to end up in some way raising money for I know the tribute guys did a bench for John Michaels in Cherokee Park, and we want to do one in Lake Park because that's where his family, we want him to be able to enjoy, we want his family to be able to enjoy a bench. And it's like we're gonna do something for that, something to help sort of fund that. It's gonna be a little while, I expect, because I mean, if you're given, like, John Palancar, he ain't fast when it comes to drawing stuff or whatever. So I'm assuming these books are going to go out and they're not going to come back for months.
Yeah.
And then once they come in, we'll set something up.
Cool. It's still fun that we've been doing it and trying it and all that good stuff. So something to look forward to.
Yeah. It'll be great. I mean, they're going to be one of a kind. Like nobody else has a book with new art from John in it, or Joe Ellen or Ben or whoever, you know? So It's going to be super awesome. God, I don't even know. I don't know what they're going to put in it yet, but I'm super excited to find out. I know John likes to screw with people, so it's probably going to be something good.
I love his humor. He cracks me up. I don't know that everybody catches on to his humor, but he cracks me up, just the things that he says and does, and You know, I
Yeah,
don't even
he's
know
a,
if does it.
he's a super funny guy.
Anybody that when you first meet them and you go to dinner and they order a fatty melt instead of a patty
Yeah.
melt, you know that they've got a good sense of humor.
John's a king of dad jokes. That's great. So yeah,
I guess nobody's talking but me.
Well,
no, it's fine.
yes,
You're on.
say whatever you want.
We're just chatting. Who cares?
Lisa Trigg wants to know what our takes are on the Pooh Bear and the Peter Rabbit in the England fairy picture Roanoke Manio. So when you say the Pooh Bear, I think you're talking about the side profile that looks like something with a cross on his shoulder. I could kind of see how that would be like Winnie the Pooh. I haven't seen anything that looks like Peter Rabbit. Doesn't mean it's not there, but I haven't seen anything that looks like it.
I mean, the England fairy picture. Oh yeah, okay, Roanoke. I was thinking Charles. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. I've never seen this.
So on the left side of the image, there is a side profile that looks like a cartoonish figure.
Oh yeah, that thing Linda Spalding always calls Ziggy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like he has like a cross tattoo on his shoulder. I think that's what they're talking about. I don't know for sure.
All right.
I don't have any take on it.
No.
I found
I don't
tree
see it.
once that matches over there pretty well, but nothing else as far as whether or not that's actually supposed to be a character, and if it is, what it's supposed to be or what it's supposed to mean.
I almost it's weird when people because Carlene used to bring this up a lot but like years ago. When Carlene first started, she would bring up like hidden people's faces or whatever in the image, and she would draw these weird outlines, and it's like, dude, you guys think John Palancar sucks as an artist? Like, these things don't look anything like what? He's better than this.
Yeah, he is exceptional. If he intends for something to look like something, it looks exactly like it.
Yeah. Dude can sit down and sketch out Winnie the Pooh pretty quick. That to me, that's not Winnie the Pooh. But whatever, you know.
Lisa, what are your thoughts on it? I don't know. Feel free to tell us your thoughts on it. And Laura, don't hesitate to interrupt and say anything you want.
That's a very pretty blanket, Laura.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out my
You're good. It's fun.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go. Yay, Super Laura.
It's Super Laura, yeah.
So yeah, Laura, what do you want to talk about? What's going through your mind about The Secret right now?
Well, I've got a friend of mine that's going to go out to Cherokee Park for me.
Oh, that's fun.
To check out a spot. I had a theory, and I sent it over to Evan just so that somebody would have it.
Yeah.
Because I know there's some people that I think are kind of sketchy.
There's a lot of those, yeah.
Most artists are sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sent it over to him just so that he would have it. But I think for me, my line of thinking in all of these things is that kind of like if y'all referenced in 1982, they didn't have the technology that we have right now, and the ones that have been solved, they weren't solved by something that somebody found by blowing up the image to 1,000%. The clues, once they, it's easy to say, oh, that was easy. Like once they were solved, but once they were solved and you're able to go back and kind of retrace how they got there. To me, all the solutions, all the stuff was like obvious. It was obtainable. So I don't know that blowing things out 1,000% is how these things are going to be solved. I think they're more obvious than that, and maybe we're just looking too hard for things that maybe really aren't there or weren't intentional. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a cast that I'm sitting on here, so I could totally be wrong, but it just seems there's a lot of rabbit holes that they're easy to get down, but I don't think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that.
So there's two things about the tribute that I've always thought. When John made the tribute, he said very explicitly that he wanted it to work exactly like The Secret, right?
Right.
And John spent 12 podcast episodes explaining exactly how he thought The Secret worked. Especially especially the Milwaukee, because he was so confident in the way he thought Milwaukee worked. I always thought that his line of thinking in Milwaukee was sort of the key of how people are going to solve the secret. The way he sort of changed verses around and made word associations and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think the biggest clue somebody could give you for the tribute is listen to that episode, because somewhere throughout the podcast, he tells you how he thinks the secret should be solved, and if he's basing the tribute on how he thinks the secret should be solved, those podcasts are going to tell you how to solve the tribute. And I have it on sort of good authority that there's something in the image that nobody's figured out yet. Like, there's one thing left in the image nobody's figured out. That's all I know about the tribute.
I think the one thing that's in the image that nobody's figured out is where the cask is buried, or where the cross is buried.
It's probably that one piece of the tribute painting with no paint on it.
Yes.
That one little sliver. I'm sorry, Laura. We keep interrupting you. What were you saying?
It for that will be, it relates to, because he had said that there's a puzzle yet to be solved. And so I think there is a puzzle that's within that painting that has not been solved.
Yeah,
it's really interesting in the verse for it. It says you have to find all the clues or all of the hints to solve it, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious what exactly if he means, because there was the prelude that came out, and then there was the verse, and then there was the image. So I think you need like all three.
Well, I know the prelude has nothing to do with the tribute, because when the prelude came out, someone was given the plain text and then told just make a puzzle around it so that people can figure that out for the plain text. So the plain text, like the story for the prelude, I don't even think that was written by John. Like, John had somebody else write the prelude part, and then he had a third person make the prelude puzzle. So as far as I've always been told, the prelude is completely separate. It was just its own little thing to get the lore of the tribute. When he says you have to, I mean, like, there's a whole lot of puzzle to the tribute. There's like he released the painting, the verse, and then like another sort of backstory thing. And all three of those have elements of puzzles in them, right, that have been figured out. So it's possible you need all three of those. But the prelude itself was like its own separate entity that John really didn't have much of a hand in.
Gotcha.
But his own choice, like that, he just didn't do much with it. I don't even think he knew how to solve it.
Yeah,
I think he wanted to play.
Yeah, he didn't create the actual puzzle itself, but I mean the text that you end up translating, I think, may have something in it.
He didn't create that either.
Oh, really?
No. One of our... I'll tell you later who created that.
That's
good story, though.
Yeah. How much credit should you give the other images in the book? I said 0 until recently, says Kenny. That's a hot topic that's constantly debated. And I think there's a lot of referential images in the back of the book. I'm assuming and in the front of the book. But there hasn't been and doesn't mean they're not there, but there hasn't been a clue found that cements anything yet. But then again, after the most recent John Jude Palancar interview, makes you wonder.
Well, I mean, there's Boston and the hair of the fairy in the front of the book, right? That's pretty well confirmed to be there. And it's plain as day. One of the images is, the Birdman of Alcatraz. Like, there's a lot of coincidences. There's a lot of things that you could say are coincidences that are pretty well related to the actual puzzle. Like that one image of the train where the train just happens to be like the 82 or whatever with a big H for Hughes. There's those images. It's important to remember that while the text of the back of the book wasn't worked on by people, like it was mostly finished by the time the secret was started. It was edited by Byron, so maybe there's something there. But those images were drawn by the people working on the puzzle. Like there's some stuff in there. I don't think they're as important as the paintings. I don't think they're going to tell you as much as the paintings. It's like one like a picture in the back of the book may have one little side piece of information that if you're standing on site you'll be able to see. That kind of, you know what I'm saying?
I don't even think that specifically. I think
No?
they're referential to the cities, absolutely. But
Yeah.
they're going to have like site confirmers.
Maybe that I misspoke. I don't think they're going to have site confirmers either. What I mean is they're going to have one little piece of information that'll make sense once you figure something out, like that train in the Houston image.
Right.
Like, until you know that train exists, it's just a picture of a train. But then you understand what it is once you understand the 982.
It's like those things, I think, for me, I think they're just confirmation that you're in the right place, because in like one of those images, and it's really hard to see, but I just happen to have a crappy monitor. And so in the background, you can see, I can't remember what you call it, the space shuttle. And it's got the little guys at the bottom, and they're connecting it, and being mischievous or whatever. But to me, like, that space shuttle is another confirmation that, okay, well, Houston Space Center, that's Houston. And so I think that some of the stuff in the book is meant to direct you to the right cities and states, but they're not necessarily going to tell you where it is. I think they're just, because there's a, like, here's the book to get you there, not here's the painting in the verse to get you to the actual dig location.
Right.
I'm gonna go look at that drawing, because there was something else in that drawing too, and I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, like if you blow it up, and like my monitor is actually dark, and that's the only reason I noticed is because it was, you can see the outline pretty good, but there's a word on the side.
So the other thing is, like, that drawing is a drawing of the fairy Werner von Brownie, and we had a statue of a little fairy dude in the children's zoo named Brownie, right? Like, those things are a little too direct to be called coincidences.
Right.
And Chuck Knapp would like you to know that you're wrong, and he has offered nothing else other than the word wrong. So there you go. So whatever.
Well, everything's interpretation.
Everybody knows.
For the Brownie statue to be there, and then you've got, like, the space shuttle. Then you have the train with I think it's narrowing you down into an area to confirm that you're in the right city or the right area of a city.
Yeah. There's way too much in there. Like, there's a lot of things we called coincidences until we started, sort of cataloging them all and going, whoa, this is way too many to just be coincidences. So yeah, I'd say totally look at them, but don't, like, base your entire solution around one. At least not yet.
No, we went out. Sunday and I were actually out in Houston last weekend, and we were over by the Tropus, and I posted it on the Houston page just for everybody to know, and it was by no means to dissuade anybody. I understand wanting to confirm for yourself, but there is a thick erosion mesh that they have placed on the hill that literally goes from concrete edge to concrete edge on every single side. And then when they were expanding the lake, they put about 5 inches of soil on top of that. Then they also did, like, the seed for the grass and all that stuff. So when you're probing, you hit that mesh. And I would say it's about a 1/4 inch thick. Now, can you move the probe in between, the little 1 inch squares? Absolutely. But it's like, there's a sprinkler line running under there. You've got that mesh. I don't know how you would get through it. So anybody looking at a Tropus, it might be gone until they regrade or something.
Yeah, New Orleans is pretty big into that too. They have this stuff called Sod Saver, which is a wire mesh that's coated in plastic that they put down. They just sort of put it over the grass in parks, and then they let the grass grow above it, and it's so, like, dogs can't dig holes, or people like me can't dig holes. But yeah, all through the parks, especially in, like, high traffic areas, if you look down, there's just this wire mesh underground, and you can't get through it. It sucks, but it is what it is.
Maybe that's what it is. I've never seen it before, but it was just like.
Yeah, it keeps you from uprooting. It keeps you from uprooting grass, so it keeps you from creating, like, walking paths, like dirt paths in a grass. It's called Sod Saver.
Okay, that's probably what it is then, and I don't know how you would get through it. I mean, I certainly
You
wouldn't want
can't.
anybody
You
to, you know,
can't.
go out there with a chainsaw and cut it. I mean, that would be
Yeah.
horrendous.
And then once it's there, it doesn't come up. Like, it's there for life. You put it down, the grass grows through it, and it doesn't come up.
Yeah, I can see that. That's not, and it's about 5 inches down. So,
Yeah.
of course, you're expected to hit something, and then you realize what it is, and you're like, oh man. And it's, I mean, we checked a couple different spots just to confirm it, and it's through the entire thing. There's no,
Yeah. New Orleans, you can
you
at
know,
least see it. Like, if you look down in New Orleans at just about any of the parks, especially the parks where Mardi Gras runs through, like Lafayette Square, you can see it. So there's at least that. But I think that's because people walk on it and wear the grass down to where it is.
yeah. I don't know that. Of course, I have no idea if my solve was right or not. But if it is buried by a tropus, I think we're kind of SOL on that one, unless they redo it or something like that. Because I honestly don't know how you would do it, because even with I had a metal detector out there, and even with the metal detector, it picks up everything. It picks up the sprinkler heads. It picks up somebody dropped a penny. It picks up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have a GPR to find a void.
I'm still really weird for Houston, man. Houston's the one city we've had the most conversation from Byron about. And it's hard for me to think about Houston without just going, oh, it was in the children's zoo and it's gone now. It's really hard for me to think about Houston without saying that.
My thing with, okay, so that if it was in Houston, okay, so if the thought is that, either an adult or a kid are supposed to be able to solve these, right? Well, he was, burying these things, when people weren't watching or whatever. So it kind of seems to me that he would put it in someplace public, like a park, not in some place where you'd have to pay to go in. And then
You didn't have to
sneak
pay to go
around.
in the children's zoo.
Oh, really?
No, and it was open at night. That on the Houston podcast, they talked about that too. There weren't really any gates. You just walked right in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
There was like a 2-part Houston episode where we talked to I think it was the parks director, right? I can't remember. It was Will House, and I think the parks director at the time, where he was talking about, like, yeah, you could just wander around. It was sort of like the Fountain of Youth in the 80s. Nobody believes that either, but you could just sort of wander around.
Yeah, he said there was
Yeah,
a big service gate towards the rear that you could just drive up to and just walk in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my thing with Houston. I'll always, just because of the things Byron said. Now, he's lied to people before, but I just don't think, because of his history with Willhouse, I just don't think he would have lied to him.
I think his responses to Willhouse were cryptic enough for me to wonder if he knew if it was there or not. I think by the time him and Willhouse had those conversations, I think it would have been very possible that Byron would have been like, yeah, it's in Houston. I know it's there. What you're saying makes sense. I don't remember, because he even said, well, let me go see if I could find the photo or my notes or whatever. So if from what I read into it, I think he was wondering himself, is it there? I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't buy that Byron didn't remember where it was. I don't buy that, because, like, if I'm gonna even 40 years later, when we emailed John Palancar about the Boston thing, right? And he was like, I don't think there's a cask in Boston. We all kind of thought, well, maybe he doesn't remember. But when we sent him the pictures, he was like, well, I knew it was in a ball field. I just didn't know which one in Boston, right? I never told him it was in a ball field, right? I was just like, we found these pictures. So he at least remembered a little bit, and he had nothing to do with burying it. So if that dude 40 years later can remember the word ball field, I think Byron could remember the word children's zoo. Like, I think he didn't want to give things away, so he was being a little cryptic, but I think at that time, him and Mark had the kind of relationship where if Mark was just totally off base, he would have told it. You know? I don't know. Who knows, though? It's an argument for the ages. So, whatever.
Yeah. And you think Mark would have found it whenever he dug up the irrigation system?
Yeah. That man's story. He's got some stories, man. We got to get him back on to tell more stories. I'm sorry.
I was going to tell you, have you ever, okay, so like up in the tree at the top on that Houston image,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you have it pulled up, if you can pull it up in front of you. If you look at the top and you find the numbers that are up in there, the numbers that are up in that tree are the elemental numbers for Atropos. So if you Google Atropos element number, and I can't remember because I don't have my laptop in front of me, but the numbers that are in the tree are the numbers to the element for Atropos, and so that's why I got hung up over on that area, because I was just like, that's what those numbers go to.
But they're also the latitude and longitude coordinates, and you'd have to ask, like, if it's the, so what's the likelihood that so if I don't know, I haven't looked, so I'm going to preface this with if you're correct, that it's you said the atomic number for Atropos. I'm sorry.
The element number.
The element number. So if that's correct, what's the likelihood that that monument was put in that park coincidentally, and it just happens to be the same as the latitude and longitude coordinates, or that Houston put that in that park because it's the same as the latitude and longitude coordinates of Houston? You see what I'm saying? Like that, it just because it's there doesn't mean it's necessarily part of the puzzle.
Right.
It might just be Houston was like, there's a cool coincidence, let's do a thing about it.
Exactly, and that's what you don't know is like, okay, so is this just a remarkable coincidence that's pretty freaking cool? Or because then if you think of it, you can go down a rabbit hole with that as far as, okay, so now you've got the longitude, latitude. Now you've got something that's telling you that literally this is the element number of Atropos, and then Atropos is called Atropos key. So is he literally saying it's that obvious? Here's the key. It's the Atropos key. I don't know, but that's kind of, what you get into. And then like if you go back and you reference, how Masquerade was solved, everything had to do with a date and with a specific time and where the shadow was cast. Well, Atropos had, depending on what day it is, it's almost like a sundial, right? It kind of points and creates shadows, but you're stuck because of the mesh. So it's like, I can't confirm whether or not I'm insane, which I could be.
If there was shadow play in The Secret, that would be the coolest way to do shadow play. That one monument.
Because but to me, not only just because I live in Dallas and it's convenient for me to work on that one, but to me, that painting just seems so completely different than all the other ones. And I can't really put my finger on why it is, but it just seems completely different.
It's the only one with where perspective is important. It's the only one that really has any sort of like important perspective. Like every painting has perspective, but that one, what's it called, Bradley? Like vanishing point perspective, where everything is, I forget what it's called, but it's the only one that has where perspective is important in the painting. And it also tells you, oddly enough, in the verse,
don't lose perspective or something.
Perspective
should not be lost.
Perspective should not be lost. So perspective, and it's weird. It's the one that I can't remember if this was on the interview or not, but one time we asked John what the painting he hated painting was, and he was like, I hated painting Houston. He didn't say why. He was just like, he didn't say Houston. He said the genie, the flying genie one, the smoky genie one, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have to think, like, is it because that one was so difficult because everything had to be in the proper perspective?
Maybe so. And the other thing that it's interesting you bring up perspective, because my other thing, I don't mind, sharing my Houston thing, because I think my idea is shocks I can't get to it. But so these are kind of all points of how I got to where I am. But there's that line that says, in the center of four alike, I think perspective should not be lost. I really should get my laptop so I can reference it. But if you look at the stage, so, you've got the stage, and then there's, like, I can't do this really, but there's 4 columns on each side of the stage. So there we go. So 4 alike. in the center of 4 alike. So if you stand center stage, you've got 4 columns here, 4 columns here, 4 alike, center stage. From center stage, if you look straight ahead, Atropos is on top of the hill. Perspective should not be lost.
Right.
I don't know. Is that how it's supposed to be interpreted? I don't know, but that's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
When I started looking at Houston, I intentionally avoided looking and reading anything that anybody had done because I kind of wanted to see where I would go with it and not get hung up on what other people said. And that's, one of my thoughts is in the center 4 alike. It's those 4 columns standing in the center. Perspective should not be lost. Again, and it's another reference, I think, to Atropos, but like y'all were saying earlier, you can make any theory literally match anything you want to.
Yeah.
So
my thing with Houston, like if I had the chance to dig one hole in Houston, and with my belief that perspective is important, we know of one thing in this painting. Well, there's a couple, but one of the things in this painting that matches perfectly with something that's on site are those entrance posts to the children's zoo. I would try to line up those 2 posts in the children's zoo so that they are in my field of view exactly as they are in the painting, and find a little spot to dig. That's all I would do. I would try to line those things up and dig a hole. Like other than that, I'm still stuck in it's gone in a gorilla pit somewhere.
I hope a gorilla didn't eat it.
Well, one day we're gonna be at the park and a gorilla's gonna be like, ooh, 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 ooh.
Right? He's just gonna be sitting on the top of his cage, and we're all gonna be like, no,
Shit.
get it.
Somebody get that gorilla a ruby. Go ahead. Sorry.
Please interrupt me if anybody wants to, jump in. What are your thoughts on, so in that Houston image, you know how you've got the columns in the background?
Mm-hmm.
Persepolis, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Persepolis monument looks exactly like that, and it was used that, George, I can email all this to you. The building was made for the celebration of the spring equinox. The solve to masquerade had to do with the time, date, spring equinox. So there's another reference, in my opinion, in that painting to a specific time and date and something creating like that shadow that will point the way. Have you looked at that at all?
No. Really my thing, like, see, you got to beat my bias with Houston. You really do. And my bias is Children's Zoo. And it's
Right.
because of what Byron said. So Houston's really hard for me to talk about without just going back to, are you in the Children's Zoo? And it's just because that's what my bias is. It's not like I don't mean to do that. I don't mean to tell anybody that they're wrong. It's just that's my bias is pretty well set. So it's hard for me to think about anything else, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing with me, and like where I'm coming from, there's a lot of things that pointed me to like where I am.
Yeah.
And
But unless you're really close to the 982, like this conversation is over. If that makes sense, because the 982 is legit in the verse. So unless you're super close to that, we're done. In my mind, that's just the way my bias is set. I don't mean to be like that. I'm not trying to be a dick to anybody. It's just it's the way my mind works. So sorry.
Smallest scale step across.
I'm sorry?
How do you apply the small of scale step across? Like I took that as stepping over, like a pathway, like you step over the train tracks.
Yeah.
The minute.
Yeah.
So wasn't there a children's train that would like take you around?
Yeah, but that one wasn't on tracks. There was a mini train though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're thinking zoo.
Yeah, I'm still in the zoo, but I've never been to Houston, and it's weird. Like I try to keep in the back of my mind. I try to keep sort of an open mind in knowing that every time I go to a city for the first time, I have this idea in my head that something is correct, and then I get there, and when I finally experience the city, I completely change my mind. It happened in New Orleans. It's happened in every city that I go to. That happens. So I'm expecting as soon as I set foot in Herman Park, my mind's going to completely change. Just because the experience of being in the park is so much different than seeing it online. So I expect that's going to happen. I'm just waiting to have a reason to go to Texas.
Hey, when you do, let me know. I'll meet you down there.
All right.
I'd love to, show you what I've got. The thing with Herman Park is that everything is a lot. I think it is, and like when I was walking around with Sunday, I was like, oh, good Lord! I mean, that's like it. For whatever reason in my head, I thought it was like way bigger than and it's not. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, you walk up the hill and there's a Tropus, or, literally across the parking lot, there's the zoo, and it's all in this small area. Well, I shouldn't say small, I mean, it's part, but it's not spread out as I thought it was.
Well, see, when people say small, I think Fountain of Youth and White Point Gardens, where you could like if you're at the Fountain of Youth and you're really good at football, you could stand on one end and have your friends stand on the other, and you could throw a football to each other. Like, it's a small park. Herman Park Herman Park's got multiple parking lots. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
To me.
But well, I'll say where I think the clues lead you, the specific area, like where the 982 was in relationship to a Tropus Key, in relationship to that, the outdoor theater, and in relationship to the zoo. All of those things are like in one area. Like, you could park at the zoo and like walk to all those areas. It's not. Yeah.
So Sunday just said something. She said, y'all stay next to the 982. And I agree with her. If anybody's going to convince me that it's not in the children's zoo, like, the verse tells you to take your task to the 982. Like, what's your task? Your task is to find this cask, right? And 982 would be the absolute hardest clue to figure out unless you were there. Unless, you're not going to find the 982 in a book. You're not going to find it in a library in San Francisco. You know what I'm saying? You're only going to know 982 if you're there. That's like May 1913 in Charleston. You're not going to know that until you see it on the monument. Until that you're in the right spot when you see those words. So 982 to me, like, if I'm not digging in the children's zoo, I'm digging somewhere really, really, really close to the 982.
As Sunday pointed out, like, when we were walking around, she showed me exactly where we, think that it was, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's not at all where I thought it would be, and then I'm like, okay, how would it look in 1982? that's the other kicker with all this. Even if I think that I have a solid theory, I'm like, well, wait a minute, what was this in 82, or even 81 or 80? It's not like you went out and then quickly, wrote a book. I mean, it had to have been a work in progress for a long time.
982, like, it's all concrete now, right? Where the train was, so it's a concrete pad now.
I think, wasn't it that grassy area?
Yeah, but now, I think now it's just concrete. I think.
If Sunday's still on, I hope she can answer that, because I think it was the grass area across from the fountains when we were walking.
Okay.
A concrete area, and then there's kind of like a sloped area, and then that sloped area goes to the walkway that goes around McGovern, and then to the right you can see at the fountain, but I don't know that that's the fountain that's being referenced, because they move the fountains around. Yeah,
there's a Facebook page out for the 982. It's not a group. Like, I've wanted to invite so many people to this thing, because they do nothing but post period photos and videos in the 982, and they're restoring it now. But I can't invite people to it because it's just a page. So let me see what it's called real quick, and then everybody should just go there. Like, if you're interested in Houston, go and like this page, because they post a crap ton of pictures. Let me find
Sunday says yes, it's concrete.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like a concrete pad with a couple of planters or something around it. It's called History of the Southern Pacific 982 Steam Locomotive. And it's technically a non-profit organization, but all they do is post pictures and videos, like old pictures and videos of that 982. Right now they're focused more on the move and the restoring, but still, it's good. Anyway.
So Johnny asks, does each panelist have a daily mantra regarding the secret? I think he means like a like a routine. I'm
No,
guessing.
probably means a daily mantra. Not all people are dicks. Not all people are dicks. Not all
I don't. I mean, when I get up in the morning, I have usually double-digit Facebook notifications to go through that I go through throughout my morning routine. But
Yes.
other than that, not really. I check in throughout the day. I was very heavy into researching, finding resources when I first started. And I think now I'm more into experiencing other people's approach to the hunt and just helping however I can.
Yeah.
I don't personally dig, and I don't mean dig like literally, but I mean like research as much as I used to, and try to find resources myself.
It's hard to find time for that now. Like
It's
the time. Oh.
Yeah.
So I wish I could go back to the day where I could just sit in front of Wikipedia or whatever for a couple hours looking at stuff. Just no more time. My like daily mantra is mute all notifications. That's what it is. Every morning when I wake up, I tell myself mute all notifications.
That's why I like having two monitors at work, because I've got my one
Nice.
that I'm working. I'm working on this one, but in the background, researching something, I've got it up on my other monitor. So like when I have to focus on work, I can focus on work. But when I have goof off time, I'm like, and back to whatever it is that I was goofing around looking at. So
Yeah. Yeah, me and Bradley are kind of the same with our like 40 some odd inch monitors directly in front of our face with 7 windows open in it. And then Bradley, when you came over to my house, I think we were doing like an interview, and I had like one thing open on one screen, like 6 things open on another screen, and I was doing shit on my phone, and you're like, I need more monitors.
Jonathan asked, do you think BP periodically checked to see whether the casks were still accessible? No, I don't think so. Maybe the one in New York. He probably like walked by and like giggled every time he walked by it. But other than that, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, that would be fun to walk, like, know you buried it there. Like he's like, it's in the planter outside my office, and every day I pass it, I pour out a little coffee for the lost homie.
I don't think that he checked to see like the.
No.
Really?
I think like this was a project that didn't make him a whole lot of money, and he was probably disappointed in that because it was a passion. It seemed like a passion project for him at that time, but when it didn't seem like it was popular, he was probably like, "What's the point?" If nobody's looking for it, what's the point?
Sunday says there's a large planter, 50 feet by 15 feet, but I think it's 75% concrete. I think she's still talking about it down in Houston.
Yeah, I think
all put in after 80-82.
I think Wheelhouse sent pictures of that when it was under construction, and they were like bulldozing everything and tearing everything up to pour the concrete.
Did they let him drive the bulldozer?
I wish they should have let him drive the damn train off, but whatever.
Steve asks, is there a clear difference in the quality of the pictures in the first editions of the book versus the reprints?
Yes.
No. The reprint, yeah, there is. There's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Steve, check out 12treasures.com or toilettreasures.com, whichever you prefer. And you can see really high-res scans of the original book there. And you can see the quality that came in the original books.
Yeah, but it's different when you hold one in your hand, man, because they're all glossy on really nice paper, and it's great.
Just
where the
high quality,
where the reprints just look like they're photocopies.
I think they literally are photocopies. I mean, they have to be, because the reprints are just the company that's doing the reprints don't have access to the original art.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have been able to reprint these books any other way than literally just photocopying the original book. That's the only way they would have been able to.
Steve Robinson asks, would it be possible to post pictures of the first edition images on the webpage, or is that opening a Pandora's box? I feel like somebody should make a website with just pictures of the first edition. If you go to 12treasures.com, It's scans of my book. Like I could go get the exact book that they're scans from. So the 12treasures.com has scans from the original edition. They got the recreated or whatever restored paintings. What is it? Altered images? What did I call those things?
I don't know. Different.
I don't remember. Yeah, we've got
Reconstructed.
those. Reconstructed. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That was a thing. Yeah, just go to 12treasures.com. That's where I always tell people, get the reprint book because it's good to hold a book in your hand. You can write notes in it. It's really cheap. Use it for the words. Use the website for the images.
Also, if you just check the top of the Facebook group, there's a section called Announcements. And in that, there's a frequently asked questions section. And that has the answer to that question, but also a lot of other things that you will probably eventually want to ask.
Yep.
I think one of you posted, maybe it was you, George, like you had match prints from the press check.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to pull a little nerd card here. This is what I do for a living. I'm a project manager and I handle large printing, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to pull a nerd card here. So how those would have been printed in 82 would have been done. First, you would have pulled a match print, which is basically you take the 4 colors CMYK and you do separations. And you basically take a photo of it and you have it developed, and then you get the next. So you do cyan first, and then you'll go and do magenta, and you line them up to your registration marks and you shoot it. Then you do the yellow, then you do the black, and it builds out. Yeah, so that's your match print. That's what the press operators use to match color to on press. That's pretty much what we did in the old days when we were doing web and offset, because everything was run with plates.
Yeah.
Now we don't match prints anymore, which, by the way, I hate developing match prints, which is why I know way too much about them, because I've had to do it. But now everything is digital. So regardless of trying to match things in a reprint, they're not going to, because it's two completely different print methodologies, because digital print doesn't use plates, whereas traditional web offset does. There's my little
I got you.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm still trying to find out so much information because I've got these, I guess they're called match prints. And then I've got an actual transparency that's not, like these are 3, like you said, 3 sheets. They're put together and you get 1 image, or 4 sheets. I can't remember.
CMYK.
Yeah. And then the other one that I've got is just 1 transparency. And I really want to mount it. Like, it's huge. It's nice. It's great. It's beautiful. And I want to mount it. And I was thinking about putting like a LED light behind it so that people could see it like in a frame. But I don't know if the sun degrades it. I don't know anything about it. So it's kept in a folder.
Black ink on a transparency?
Is it what?
Black ink on a transparency?
No, it's color ink.
It's color on a transparency.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know.
And
they're really hard to scan. I've tried to scan and it's very difficult to scan.
I would assume that if you put that in a frame, you're going to want to get like moisture barrier, and you're going to want to get UV protective glass and all that.
Yeah, I got a framer guy, and we were talking about it, and he was just like, he's like, I worry that the sun's going to fade it. It's like, well, I'm going to find out the answer to whether or not it will before we go forward.
Yeah, because I have an Aussie. I'm a huge Aussie fan, and back in the day, it was a novelty for me to be able to print pictures on transparency sheets.
Yeah.
So I have an Ozzy Osbourne photo printed on a transparency sheet that he autographed that I took to a concert once, and it stays in a binder on my shelf because I don't want it to be direct. I don't want it to be in any sort of light.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid of the same thing of the ink like degrading over time due to light exposure.
I sent a bunch of emails about these things out, and the one that I got back a really long thing from Alex J explaining what those 3 sheets were and what the mechanical for the button was. And then I got a really long one from John explaining what the transparency was. And he was like, dude, you could print. He was like, if you get that thing scanned by whoever the kind of people is that scan it, he's like, you could print out the painting the size of a house. He's like, I'm sorry?
You cut out?
It's called a drone. Basically what it is.
Oh, no,
like
you cut out again.
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called a drum, DRUM scan. And what it is, the drum is a roller. So it's this huge roller, and they mount the transparency onto the roller, and it rolls over a large flatbed. So like this flatbed runs underneath it, and basically this thing rolls across this flatbed, and it creates a high res, JPEG or whatever type of image you want, whether you want it CMYK or you want it RGB. Typically people print 4 colors, so that's the CMYK part, but it's called a drum scan, and that's what you use when you have huge pieces of transparency like that, or transparent photographs. That's how you get a scan made. So you'll need to find, and there's not a lot of people that do it, but there are printers that can do just ask them if they do a drum scan, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about if they can.
All right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
My third printing self.
Hey, Laura, can you do a drum scan?
Yeah. Can you do a drum scan?
I don't. I know people who do them, but I personally do not do them.
Once I figure out who does these kind of scans, you're going to know it, because I'm going to have a huge reproduction of that painting on my wall back there.
Nice.
I know companies in Dallas, so if you don't find anybody in your area, I can, definitely.
Yeah. I just don't want to mail it.
That's what I was going to say. You would not. I wouldn't want you to.
Yeah.
Stick it through FedEx and.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that's the only transparency that's made it out into the world. As far as I know, the rest are still under control, which is crazy.
Wow. Well, it's good that they didn't throw them out, though, because most of the time, like, you clean shop. I mean, you can't hold on to, people's files and transparencies, and, like, you have to purge at some point, so it's shocking that even one is out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, Bradley, did you say you had something to do? Do you have to go shortly?
I do. But before I do want to just say to everybody out there, Happy Mother's Day. Whether you are a mother of human babies, fur babies, if you're a single father, whatever the case may be, Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day?
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. And we'll start doing these, like, I think Sunday Funday should be a regular thing. Because, like, people want to chat, and we should let them chat. And Sunday's a good day for me. Is it a good day for you, Bradley?
Some Sundays is.
Okay. Sunday Funday.
Yeah.
Sunday Funday will be a thing. All right, guys. Laura, thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking to us about printing and
super cool, interesting stuff. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah. We'll see you guys later.
What's that?
Sorry to bore you to death with that.
No, not at all. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your weekend.